This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 1011 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Greetings, horse people. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Recent studies are showing that more and more horses are overweight, so I thought maybe a review was in order. To that end, today's tip is from Dr. Nerida Richards from feedxl.com, and it's the first of a two-part tip about correctly assessing your horse's body condition score and what those numbers really mean. And we'll get right to our tip after this important message from equestriancollections.com. Greetings, everybody. Coach Jen here, and I'm with Debbie from Equestrian Collections, and she's got the much-anticipated Equestrian Collections product of the week.
This week, I'm going to be featuring an old friend with a new twist. Well, new to me, anyway. This is the Iridian Synergy Tights. Now, I've talked about the Synergy breeches before, about how comfortable they are. They are a blend that Iridian has came out with that has some pieces of these breeches are cadence and some are the material that they use, and they put it all together in one. And that's great. But what they've added, they've had it for a while, but I just got some. And so, I never feature anything that either I haven't used or somebody that I know has used. And I'm telling you, this is the most comfortable top I have ever seen. They're like yoga pants, only they're riding. They have a top that is very, very soft, and it comes in different colors. And it's like the breeches are their mid-rise, but this top can either make them a little bit higher or you can fold it over. But what it is, it's the most comfortable tight I have ever had on, and very, very stylish looking because you can get it with the colors on the top. It's called a contrast waistband. These you can just not even beat these tights for comfort and style and just. They're just wonderful. So I know all of your listeners know about Iridian and how wonderful that brand is in their breeches and tights. They're probably familiar with the Synergy, but I don't know if they're comfortable or know about the ones with the waistband. So take a look at the Iridian Synergy tights on our website. They're not too expensive. Some of the Iridian breeches are much more expensive, and they're worth it. But these are a little bit less expensive, and there are some closeouts and some of the older colors still available. So take a look at those. I think you're going to really, really, really enjoy them. They're very stretchy. All of the Iridian stuff is very stretchy, so it covers a multitude of sins.
Iridian Synergy Tights. They're available for ladies and children. Check them out today at equestriancollections.com.
Well, hi, Dr. Richards, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily.
Good morning, Glenn. It's great to be back with you.
Your morning, my late afternoon.
I know. Takes a bit of coordination.
We'll remind everybody that Dr. Richards is in Australia, where it's winter, and I am in Lexington, Kentucky, where it's summer.
Yeah, and I am very envious.
I just wanted to throw that in. Now, your winters, do they get really bad where you are?
No, I'm being a sook. Where we are, it's pretty mild. We don't even get frosts where we are, so okay. I am whinging.
Gotcha. You're just playing with me here. All right. So, we have you on. You are with one of our sponsors, FeedXL, and we appreciate you joining us also to do some tips. And I think today you really wanted to talk about body condition, right?
I do, yes.
Well, tell us about body condition and the body condition score. I've heard different versions of this before.
Yeah, there is a couple of different versions. I think the most widely accepted is the Henneke, which I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it was published in 1983. It's a 1 to 9 scale. We also have an Australian version, which is a 1 to 5 scale, but I find it just doesn't have enough scope for actually classifying horses as far as their condition goes. So what a body condition score is basically is looking at how much fat a horse has on its body, and you're assessing the horse outside of how much muscle that horse has. So you sort of have to take into account the differences, say, between a Clydesdale or a quarter horse and a thoroughbred or a standard bred. I mean, they've got very, very different muscling patterns in most cases, but you have to just look at the parts of the body where the fat accumulates so that you're not getting muscle confused with fat, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm certainly glad they don't do this for horse husbands, because I think I'd be way up the scale there.
I'm often poking my husband in the ribs, condition scoring him as a joke.
It must be horrible. I'm known as America's horse husband, but it must be terrible being a horse husband of a nutritionist. Oh,
I'd imagine so. and also the child of a nutritionist too. You don't get to eat anything.
Jeez, you can't eat anything wrong.
So condition scoring is super useful, and it's something that everyone who owns a horse should know how to do, and also something that you should do pretty much almost on a daily basis. For me, it's just become a habit. If I come across a horse, I'll just almost purely out of habit will just run my hands over them and get a gauge for how much fat that horse has on its body. So condition scoring you use to determine if you're feeding your horse enough, if you're feeding your horse too much. So, if your horse is suddenly starting to put on fat, you have to go back and adjust that horse's diet, because it's obviously getting too many calories in its diet. In the reverse, if your horse is starting to lose condition and you're picking that up when you're condition scoring your horse, then something's amiss in the diet as well, and that horse isn't getting enough feed, or there's something missing in that diet that's causing it to lose weight. You might have started to work your horse a little harder, and your feeding program hasn't caught up to that. So it's really the only way to tell if you're feeding your horse the right amount of calories in its diet. It's all well and good to use something like Feed XL, which will give you an estimated requirement for energy for that horse, but so many things affect a horse's energy requirement. So even little things like the weight of the rider, the terrain it's being ridden on, what its temperament's like. So you'll get these nervous horses that seem to fret away quite a bit of their energy, or you'll get these really placid horses that just don't burn up energy fretting at all. So there's all of these different factors. Your climate is another one. So the energy requirements that we calculate using Feed XL, or that any nutritionist is going to calculate for you, it's only a best guess. You have to condition score your horse as well to work out if you're feeding it the right amount of feed.
Okay, so when you say condition score, there's actually a sort of rating table, isn't there?
There is, yep. Yeah. Now we have a newsletter on our website, which I think you'll refer people to, but it gives you some pictures, and any number of websites will give you diagrams and pictures of horses in the different body condition scores. But there is certainly a really well-established method of condition scoring, and I'll just run through some of them now if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
So score one is what they call paw. Now, paw basically is a walking skeleton, and when you see the picture on our newsletter, it's just you look at these things and think, how are you still alive? I feel sorry for horse owners who lose horses through colic and things with all the best intentions in place, and yet these people who neglect these horses and get them looking like this, and the things are still alive. So they're tough little critters, but basically one is literally a walking skeleton. Condition score 2 is what we call very thin. So almost a walking skeleton, but there is still just the tiniest little bit of muscle mass there over its rear end and a little in its rump. But basically all of its muscle, nearly all of its muscle is wasted away, and you will not find any fat on that horse. So very ribby, hip bones will be sticking out. You can really see the structure of the shoulder. The neck will often be U-shaped as well. Stepping up to score 3 is what we call thin. Again, this horse will be still very ribby. Its hip bones will still be very prominent, and the structure of the shoulder is still pretty easy to see. Also, the vertebra of the backbone, you'll be able to see quite clearly, particularly over its wither, but depending on how emaciated or how thin it is also over its loin area. Did I say ribs sticking out? Definitely, the ribs will be really prominent. There will be some muscle on this horse, but again, there's very little to no fat whatsoever on there. So, scores 1, 2, and 3. You don't want any horse in those categories. They're too thin. So, if you've got a horse in any of those categories, you need to feed it more. And I will mention here, if you've got a horse that's in the poor, so the walking skeleton category, or even the very thin category that have come from a starvation type situation, you need to be really careful how you feed those guys in the first couple of weeks to couple of months of refeeding them. There is very good guidelines published, and I'll let people just go and look those up with refeeding starved horses. But I know everyone's natural tendency is to want to feed them a lot to build them back up as quickly as possible, but more often than not, they will experience what they call refeeding syndrome, and they can die. It's just too much for their poor body to cope with if you give them too much feed too quickly.
And so, that actually will happen with humans too.
It does, yeah. And sadly, it happened with a lot of prisoners of war when they were eventually rescued.
Got out and went crazy eating and.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, you find someone who's starving or a horse who's starving, and your natural tendency is to say, here's food, but you need to be really careful. So score 4 is moderately thin, and this is where we get into our normal categories of horses. So it's quite acceptable for a horse, depending on its body type and the type of work it's doing. It's quite acceptable for a horse to be in this moderately thin category. So these horses, their neck and their shoulders aren't obviously thin, so you can't see their bony structure anymore in their shoulders. Their neck shouldn't be U-shaped anymore. You will still, in most horses in this condition, you will still be able to see a faint outline of their ribs, and that's probably the easiest way to tell this condition. So their ribs aren't like poking out, but you can still just see them when the horse is standing still. Their backbone, the vertebra won't be visible anymore. So there's not a lot of fat on these horses. They're behind their shoulder has still got a lovely nice curve, like sort of in front of where your girth would go. There's still, a lovely big dish from their shoulder into their rib cage there. There's not a lot of fat on these guys, but they should be well muscled and in good condition. Their coat should be lovely and shiny. So they look healthy. They're just on the lighter side. You'll see a lot of endurance horses in this category. You'll see some thoroughbred and standardbred racehorses when they're getting towards the end of a racing prep in this category. They're getting just a little bit thin, but that's sort of the types of horses you'll see.
Well, there you have it. To links to today's guest, you can go to horsetipdaily.com, where you will find lots more tips on topics from barn care to websites for horse people. And thank you very much to Dr. Nerida Richards for providing this tip. You can find her website, feedxl.com. It's a service that I use regularly and find very, very useful. And you can have every single one of your favorite Horse Radio Network shows with you wherever you go by downloading the free Horse Radio Network app for your iPhone or Android. Just go to your app store and search Horse Radio Network. Download it today. It's quick, it's free, and it's easy. And this podcast has been made possible through the generous support of EquestrianCollections.com and listeners like you. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.